now we've completed the sanding process, we've applied the sealer stain, and we're going to go on to the next phase. I've already hand sanded the borders with the 220 grit screen, and now I'm going to screen the entire floor with the buffer to smooth off the surface so that in the end we'll have a nice smooth final product. Okay, now we're ready to get started with the screen sanding. 220 grit screen, here's the buffer, now we begin. Okay, so before we begin to put on the first coat of urethane, we have to do a very thorough job of vacuuming, very thorough, dust-free, before we apply the finish. So we have a nice, very strong vacuum, vacuum the edges with a wand, and then we go down the center, all the open areas 2 times to make sure we got all the dust off. Okay, now we're going to apply the first coat of waterborne urethane. The floor has been thoroughly screened and vacuumed. The urethane has been mixed. That means I added a catalyst to it. I've got my tools all ready and cleaned up and ready to go. I've got a little paper towel in my pocket in case I need it. Now we're ready to start. It's hard to see when you're putting it on with a camera that it's changing the color. But even though it's water-based, it's going to make the color richer. Now if I use oil-based, it would even make it richer still, except that it would start to make it look yellow, especially with the passage of time. Oil-based gets yellower and yellower, or another way of saying it is, it loses some of its transparency. So, water-based, the good stuff is $90 a gallon, is going to be harder than oil-based, and it's not going to lose its clarity. So I prefer water-based finish. It's less toxic, it's easier to apply, but most of all, it is significantly stronger than the oil-based product. And if you sand the floor nice and smooth like I did before staining, and then sanded that stain, and sand between every coat of the water-based finish, in the end, it would be very difficult to tell, texture-wise, which one's oil-based, which one's water-based, because I can make the water-based almost as smooth as oil-based. You might wonder, what about the grooves? Are the grooves getting full of finish? Well, of course the finish is going down in those grooves, but it doesn't fill them up because the applicator applies it and it also picks it up, so you don't have to worry about the grooves getting all loaded up and somehow making them so full that there's no more groove. No, it doesn't work like that. Applicator over here. I'm picking up the finish out to pull it out of the groove. Now I've got 1 gallon of finish here for about 400 square feet. It should be sufficient. And the applicator that I'm using, it's 18 inches wide. There's another one that's 24 inches, which would be more appropriate for a larger job. Wet edge like this, snow plow. Once you get it on, then you got to go back and straighten everything out. It's very important. Get very close to the wall, but don't touch the wall. Once again, the project should go on medium. Not too thick, not too thin, no puddles, and no skips. Okay, so today is kind of a cool day. It feels like it's about in the lower 60s. And so I have to come back later to put another coat on. So I'm going to keep these windows open. I'll have fans on, and I'm also going to turn the heat on. As long as it's not too windy, most of the heat will stay in here, and that's going to assist the drying process. In addition, I'll have the fans on in the kitchen, top ventilate, and in the bathroom. Air movement, low humidity, temperature up, and fresh air. Those are the 4 ingredients to drying the floor. However, when you put the fan on the floor, you don't aim it at the finish. You aim it above the finish. You don't want it to dry on the top of the finish, but not under the finish. You want the air to move, but you don't want the air to directly hit the finish.